I really enjoyed seeing Ethan Hawke in a short film in a gay Western by Pedro Almodóvar and kind of merging those two sensibilities.
We're talking about Strange Way of Life, the 30-minute Western short film by Pedro Almodóvar, and
with Pedro Pascal.
Oh my God!
I mentioned Ethan Hawke, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, that was one of the things that drew me to this short film, is because you have arguably the two hottest zaddies in Hollywood right now, with Pedro Pascal and Ethan Hawke, right?
Probably. And Pedro Pascal did a Western recently with Mandalorian.
Right. Well,
so
yeah,
he's in this world.
Absolutely,
we can do that.
Absolutely.
And in some ways, Narcos is also in that vein, right? This man is good. And whatever The Last of Us, it's not
The Last of Us. Right? It's not a Western, but it's kind of...
It's grimy.
It's still gruffy and grimy, yeah, and very masculine. You know, these are two men who play very masculine roles. And you're right, neither one of them would work in a Wes Anderson film at all. It'll just be a totally different experience. But that's what really drew me to this film, because again, you have these two actors who are playing former lovers in a Western setting, and I was like, sign me up, because this has got to be one of the more interesting things I've seen put together. Now, I've mentioned to you before we started recording this, is that I am not familiar at all with any of Pedro's work. Pedro Almodóvar, not Pedro Pascal. His filmography is very well known, especially to film fans, people like yourself, you know, and there are a lot of movies that he's done that I am aware of. It's just I've never seen them. You know, and he's, 30 years now career of filmmaking. There are movies that I remember when I used to work at Blockbuster Video, I would see on the shelves, and I'll just be curious, like, oh, what's this movie about? What's that movie about? You know, I remember seeing All About My Mother on the shelf all the time, like the cover for that. And that's like another movie that I know a lot of people talk about. Talk to Her is another one that I remember seeing everywhere at one point. And then you were mentioning to me like movies like Volver, in recent years, Parallel Mothers, Pain and Glory. You know, those are some of the movies that he's more kind of known for in more recent years. So
around Halloween time, let me recommend this Skin I Live In, where Antonio Banderas is playing. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I also really don't want to spoil this one.
Sure.
But basically, someone wrongs him, and he's a plastic surgeon, and he changes them to look like someone else. And then there's another double flip. Something, I don't remember how deep it goes, but I remember being irked seeing it. Full recommend if you want to have like a little freak out movie night. A lot of his things are much more melodramatic and mothers and some kind of like either homosexual, transsexual, something, either undertones or overtones. But that one, he just goes a full freaky. It was cool. It is a well done and one of his best reviewed works. Since we're in spooky season, gotta recommend it.
Nice, good looks. Yeah, that's good to know. Another one that also stands out in his library here is Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. I remember when that came out, huge controversy around that movie when that film came out, with Antonio Banderas and all that. So yeah, so the guy he has been around for a long time, and it's amazing that I have not, you know, indulged in any of his films up until now. But after seeing this, I will say I do now want to go back and check out what he's more capable of as far as full-length feature film. Because this one was, for someone who is new to his line of work, I think this one is a very tasteful kind of snippet of what is to be expected with his filmography. So what I will say, just first off, is this is like the novella I've always wanted for some reason. Like, I've never watched soap operas. I've never watched novellas. You know, I know people who have. If this is what a novella is like all the time, I want this. I want this more so than I ever expected myself to want anything like this. Seeing these two men kind of rekindle their love affair that they experience. You know, most of the movie takes place in a bedroom, you know, as they're having their little conversation back and forth and all that. But to see like the flashbacks of when they first started their love affair, or when that love affair happened, the
Such a
funny
good
scene with the wine and everything, and how they just went nuts on each other.
scene.
And
Don't
then
pardon the pun.
well, it was very unintentional. Um, but this is a world that I need more of. I think 30 minutes wasn't enough. Now it ended in a way where I could see him possibly continuing it, which would be fascinating to see. The way it was shot, and again, I am not familiar with the way he shoots movies and all that. It really felt cheesy and campy, but purposefully. Like all done on purpose, like I was watching a TV drama, like I was watching a novella. And I was like, the minute I started seeing like those same kind of like camera pans, or the dialogue being shot just by one point of view, and you see the back of the head and all that, and then you just see the switch over like that. It's like, this is
The moment
TV.
when Ethan Hawke and they're showing him, and he has a serious face, and then Pedro Pascal comes up and kisses him from behind.
Yes.
I melted. Yeah, so
Yes.
good.
I was just like, wow, this is the best TV drama I've seen like that in a very long
So
time.
good.
Like this
Plus,
was
you're
like,
talking about like there was the Western aspect. So
right.
I really enjoyed it. Even just on the like, oh, what do you do if it's your friend's son? And let's
Yeah.
put friend in quotes here, right? But like if it's that old buddy's and he's the sheriff now and he has to go find that kid and the friend's going to talk him out of it, but he's got to do what's honorable.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great drama right there. And then you throw in the bathtub scene.
Oh my
Hell
God.
yeah.
It was just, it was, again, he did a lot in 30 minutes. There was a lot of story that was like thrown at us watching it. We got enough to understand the initial attraction, how it started. We got to know what brought them together in a way. We got to understand that there's a conflict now, because it involves the son of Pedro Pascal in the movie. He plays, Ethan Hawke plays the sheriff who has now to correct the wrong that was done by the son because it was done to his own brother. It's like all this intrigue that's all connecting and all intertwined and everything. But at the end of the day, you have two people that madly in love with each other and have to basically stop one another from doing what they have to do in any way, in any means possible, right? And then the short film pretty much ends with them, just basically like, yeah, I couldn't let you do that, but at the same time, you're my boo and all that, and love you. And it was just so sweet. But yeah, the one thing I will say also, another thing I will say, one thing I said multiple things. Another thing I will say is that the reception at my press screening was mixed, extremely mixed, which I was kind of surprised because I felt like that type of audience would be very open to this, and they were. They were eager too. A lot of people were eager when this thing was starting. But I think most people were disappointed because it was a short film. I think a lot of people wanted more of this. And the most
If you make a
common,
good short film, it's never going to be enough, right?
yeah. And I think the most common thing I heard, there was this one comment I heard someone made, and I thought it was very, very funny, but smart at the same time. He said to his friend, I love this universe they put me in. I just need more of it. It's like you put me in this world, you introduce me to this fantastic world, but I want more. And yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where this deserves something more full fledged, something more fulfilling. But from what we got, I really dug it. Now, for someone who is a fan of Pedro's work, Almodóvar's work, how did you like this, and how did you react when you saw it?
So I saw it at AMC. For whatever reason, not a lot of theaters here doing it, but AMC in Times Square is showing this with a short film of his with Tilda Swinton from a few years ago.
Oh, so it's like a double short film feature like that?
And the other one is a totally different style, which actually, if you were to watch both of those, you would have a better understanding of the different kinds of movies he makes.
Okay.
Because if this is your intro to him, he definitely did the novella, the campy. He's very good at camp, and sexuality is a huge theme throughout his work. But he also has made many different movies in different styles, and he's made things that are much more serious. And I don't want to say that those things are in contrast to each other, but he does things that are more of camp, and then he does things that are less camp. And this one is definitely more camp in ways, to the point where I at some point was thinking maybe he's trying to do a parody of the genre, or kind of do a piss take on westerns and Power of the Dog, Brokeback Mountain, etc. But in some ways, it's very sincere, and there's something very true that if someone finds it comical, I felt this afterward. If someone finds it comical when something is hyper masculine and homoerotic, those things aren't necessarily at odds with each other, right? It's just that this man is comfortable working in that world.
Yeah, and I think it's also because we are so trained and accustomed to not seeing that mix. You know, like the hyper masculinity and homosexuals, sensuality. Seeing that too, we're not trained to see that. So
especially
at
when
times,
it's overt, because a lot of people are looking
right,
for it kind of under the surface, so they'll like read into things more.
right,
And I've had times I read into a movie and I'll say it to a friend, especially a cis straight male friend, and he's going like, no, there was nothing homoerotic about that movie, folks, wrong with you. I'm like, look at it a little bit further. And sometimes people protest a little too much about it.
yeah,
But rarely when it is playing with those lines is it on the surface the way it is in this one, which I actually liked. That he didn't do the like, oh, they're so tortured. It was pretty clear what was going to happen early on. And Ethan Hawke's character had a moral dilemma, and there was the dilemma of, oh, people can't find out about us.
right.
But they didn't. It wasn't a problem that a lot of gay movies have, which is there's something very true about it, but it's something that's frustrating, where a lot of gay movies get pigeonholed themselves into the tragic love story. And this one didn't lean into those aspects. I really like how it focused more on the relationship, the very interesting dynamic between these two men. But going back, I've seen a lot of his movies over the years. I didn't realize how long he'd been doing this. I was thinking 90s or late 80s. That's when he kind of becomes popular and more of an international figure. He's been making at least short films since 1974 in Spain, and was part of a film movement there. And then is making full-blown features not too long after that. Becomes prominent in the 80s, and then by the late 80s is when he's getting known, and he starts making some of the movies that you mentioned, like Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down is 1990. Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is kind of his big breakout movie.
Right.
Which I haven't seen a lot of his earlier stuff too. It's something where I was playing catch up with a lot of his movies, and he has so many that now I just see that all the current ones, especially after falling in love with him when Voltaire happened, and Penelope Cruz won the Oscar for that. But this movie isn't a very representative sample of a lot of his work. Pain and Glory with Antonio Banderas is so good. But I think if you were to watch something like Pain and Glory, The Skin I Live In, Voltaire, but then also throw in Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, or some of his earlier movies, you'll kind of get the more of the different styles he does. All that to say, he is very capable of making a very campy novella style movie, and he's able to do a lot of different styles and switch as a director. Watching the Tilda Swinton one afterward, which we won't get into, it was such a different style, so good, so beautifully directed. It could have been, if it was a full-length feature, it could have absolutely been nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Picture, Best Actress, Tilda Swinton. Like, just a very beautiful, well-done movie. And tonally so different from Strange Way of Life.
So happy to have Surfshark on board as one of the affiliate partners for the Low Key Geek channel here. If you're in the market for a new VPN, I highly recommend a company like Surfshark. And trust me, I've tried all of the VPNs out there, and by far Surfshark is the #1 clear-cut winner for me because of many reasons. Yes, of course, it gives you great protection and security protection while you're browsing the internet, especially when you travel and you're in other countries or other states, and you want to make sure your browsing data is, fully secured and no one is like spying in on you or stealing some of your stuff that you're transmitting online. What I mainly use Surfshark for is for unlocking the streaming services that I already pay for. There's no better feeling in knowing that you can get more out of your streaming services by accessing content that is not necessarily readily available for you in your region. What do I mean by that? Well, a great example is that recently I wanted to check out some movies off of Hulu, but I don't subscribe to Hulu. But I found out that in the UK, Hulu movies are shown on Disney Plus. So all I had to do was connect to the UK server there through Surfshark. And then once I was connected, I just logged into Disney Plus and bam, Hulu movies were available and I was able to enjoy it without any issues with quality due to speed because everything was playing perfectly and the audio was coming in crisp and all that. It's as if I was just watching it normally through my normal internet connection. But the main reason why Surfshark is by far the best is because it is the cheapest out there. And I can't stress that enough where, you know, we're all trying to save money here. And with all the stuff that we pay for on a monthly basis, the last thing we need is to add on an additional high monthly payment to our bills, and Surfshark will not hurt your wallet at all. As a matter of fact, if you scan that QR code you see on the screen right now, or you check out the link in the description of this video, you'll find out how you can get Surfshark for 85% off plus 2 additional months for free. Again, I can't speak highly enough about it, and I'm so glad I came across them, and I'm so glad that they decided to partner up with us here. So again, if you are in the market for a VPN, or maybe now you're more interested more so now to check them out for the first time, scan the QR code you see on the screen right now, or check out the link in the description and find out how you can get 85% off plus 2 months for free. Again, thank you so much, and if you do try Surfshark out, let me know what you thought about them when you do, and let me know your thoughts about the service in the comments of this video. Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Make sure to check out the link in the description of this episode or scan the QR code you see on the screen right now and find out how you can get unlimited data for only $15 a month. Save a whole ton of money on your monthly cell phone bill without sacrificing any of the quality. No contracts to worry about, you can cancel anytime, and the transferring process is so easy. You can keep your phone number or get a new one. Need a new phone? They got you covered as well. Over a year ago, I switched from Verizon without any hesitation, and it's not just because I found Ryan Reynolds to be a sexy mother. Shut your mouth. I'm just talking about Mint Mobile, but I guarantee you if you give Mint Mobile a shot, you'll understand why I made that switch, and you too will be a happy Mint Mobile customer. So once again, check out Mint Mobile, link in the description of this episode or QR code on your screen. Check them out. It's fine. What was the name of the Tilda Swinton one?
The Human Voice?
The Human Voice. Oh, okay. Oh, that came out in 2020.
Yeah. I don't know why they put them together. Maybe it was so AMC could sell a ticket.
Yeah, I'm thinking so they could fill in at least like something an hour or an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's so, you know, I feel like we should do like a Almodóvar kind of retrospective and just like go through his library, because there are a lot of...
Next year is 50 years since his first short film.
Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that might be perfect time for that.
But,
yeah, that might be perfect time for that, because there's so many things that I am now really curious to watch and really check out under his... And again, this is what makes what we do exciting, especially talking about film, because I will sometimes come across creators, directors, writers who I've never known of or I've never allowed myself to experience, and he is now one of them right now for me. You know, this is the first time I've seen him do anything, even though I am very familiar with his films that he's done in the past, and now it makes me want to go back and now watch these for the first time, you know, and that's exciting because, you know, when you watch film as long as we have, you get tapped out on the common names, right? Your Scorsese's, your Spielberg's, your Nolan's, your whatever. I mean, there's so many, but you get to the point where it's like, all right, I've seen all of these guys' stuff, you know, so what do I do now? And now, you know, finding or experiencing someone else's line of work for the first time, that's when it gets exciting, you know, and it's like, oh wow, now I get to like relive all of these things that a lot of people have already experienced, but I haven't, you know, and that's what I love to come across every now and then.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about these festivals, and whenever one of these guys will make another movie, especially Almodóvar kind of doing his retrospective where it's like a memoir film where Antonio Banderas plays him with
Hmm.
Pain and Glory. That was so beautiful. I would definitely, if it's a retrospective, I don't think it's a bad place to start there, or even in there,
Hmm.
as you go through them, and be able to look back that way. But I'm excited because, especially after the COVID break, we have a lot of directors putting works out this year,
Yeah.
and some of them are doing back to backs that we just talked about with Wes Anderson,
Hmm.
and then getting these little short films. It's a nice moment to take stock and appreciate the big film slate. And over the next month, I know summer blockbuster season's over. Got a lot of
Oh,
good shit coming out in the next month, bro.
yeah. No, we are full blown award season. And if what I've seen at New York Film Festival so far is any indication of what is to be expected, we got some nice stuff coming out. We got some really, really good stuff that's coming out. My question to you, now that we're getting a lot of these short films from a lot of these well-known directors, what's the short film category looking like come Oscar season? Are we
4
going to be
Wes Andersons and 1 Almodóvar.
and Yorgos
Just
Lanthimos?
kidding.
Don't forget, he got one in there too.
It's an interesting question because sometimes there's been this, especially in recent years, a trend where big names will
Yeah,
throw money or their weight or their star power into or behind these short films, and it does help. Name
yeah,
recognition helps a lot in Hollywood. It's almost like they love glad handling and networking, and oh yeah, my buddy made this thing, and I had a lunch with him, and um, at some point that might run out, and at some point you have to make a quality product. But I think what
hmm,
we've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised if Almodovar gets a nomination, if Wes Anderson gets a nomination. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them whiff completely also.
hmm,
In some ways, these aren't the kind of movies that you would typically see in the short film category.
right.
So, and also I could see people saying, I don't want to give them a leg up. When the short film, in some way, it's looked at as like, oh, we want to help someone who's a young,
Right.
new filmmaker,
Like an
shoestring
indie
budget.
person, yeah.
And there's a lot of people who take their short film Oscar and turn it into their full career. A lot of documentarians win the live short, the documentary short Oscar, and then they turn it into more opportunities. So
Yeah.
I could see them taking some hit points, but overall, I honestly don't know because it's very rare when you go see those. They release all 5 of the short films together. It's
Hmm.
very rare to see a well-known director among those.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be a problem in that way, but I would personally love to see those being movies that were released in theaters with real stars in them, movies that I'm excited to talk about and rewatch.
Yeah. No, I mean the reason why I ask is like you said, I am very familiar. I'm used to just seeing that category with people that I usually just never heard of or who are known just in more the indie world, right?
There might
Now,
be a name,
right.
a narrator. Sometimes there'll be something you recognize about it, but it's not the whole thing, right?
No.
That director
Yeah.
and the stars.
Yeah. So it would be interesting if this time around all of a sudden we're seeing Pedro Almodóvar and Wes Anderson and Yorgos Lanthimos with 3 of the 5 selections in that category. I mean, I don't know if if the studios behind them are going to be pushing that. Again, I don't know if it's studios that push that or if it's the individual creator who pushes it. I don't know, but it would be a very different environment if we start seeing that becoming a possibility because maybe there's also a time where a studio's like, well, we can't seem to push them in this category or a full feature film. There's no shot. But they happen to have directed this short film this year. Why don't we help
Right.
them and push them in this category to kind of give them some recognition or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
And in some ways it might even help push the feature if you get the short film, right? Because then people see that director one and
Right.
pretend it's Lanthimos and Emma Stone, then they're more likely to go see the movie that's still in theaters. I don't
Right.
know, maybe.
Yeah.
Which that movie won't have that issue, but if there was one that did, let's say Asteroid City blanked out, but Wes
Right.
Anderson got the nomination, you might get some extra streaming money on Asteroid City for all I know.
Right. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, like in Wes's case, Asteroid City would at least get screenplay. nomination.
Production design, maybe.
Or production
something
design.
Like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He'll usually get a few of those, but I don't think he'll be in much above the line except screenplay.
Yeah. But again, he's no stranger to that. I feel like he's used to, getting recognized, at least in that sense.
For full audio episodes of the MovieTime Podcast, make sure to follow and subscribe to the Low-Key Geek channel on your favorite podcast platform. New episodes are uploaded every week.